July 24th, 1908, in London was the Olympics. And so 55 runners were represented by 16 nations in this Olympic marathon event. The weather was scorching. It was extremely hot, just not fortunate weather for running a long race. The race would begin at Windsor Castle. It would go through the suburbs of London, and eventually it would end in White City Stadium, where a crowd of over 75,000 people awaited, hopefully, to see their country represented crossing the finish line first. 26 miles, 385 yards in length. This race set the standard for the length of the modern marathon that we run today, or some of you run that I haven't ran. The extra yards accommodated for the track length in the stadium. And of the 55 runners, there was a man named Dorando Pietri, an Italian man who was talented, but he was not predicted to win the race. Throughout a marathon, hydration, refuel stations, they're available to all runners, just like today in marathons, that help keep them hydrated, keep their body temperatures regulated, refuel them, give them all the necessary things that they need. Thank you. And 10 to 12 miles into the race, many lost their pace due to the intense heat, but not Dorando. 20 miles into the race, Dorando is making history, now just 4 minutes behind the leader from South Africa, a favorite to win the race as a proven long-distance champion. Dorando, despite the heat, he chose to accelerate his pace and skip all of the rest stops on this very scorching hot day. 24 miles into the race, Dorando shocked the world as he took over as the leader, the unpredicted leader. With just 2 miles ahead of him, as the favorite from South Africa faded, Dorando surges past him, something that looked to be a heroic moment, especially for his country. Dorando, he enters White City Stadium tunnel with only 385 yards between him and a gold medal. In a 2-mile span, he now had a 3 to 4 minute lead, which was about a half of a mile in distance. As he enters the stadium tunnel, 75,000 people erupt as second place was nowhere close behind him. Race officials meet him at the exit of the tunnel, guiding him to go in the right direction. But Dorando was so disoriented from exhaustion after skipping every hydration station and pushing himself to his limit, he ran the wrong direction. And so you have these officials that are shouting, Dorando, wrong way. Hey, over here, over here. They're waving, they're trying to get his attention, and finally they get his attention and he stops. And he turns around and he is just utterly confused. And when he moves forward to go the right direction, he collapses on the track. 4 minutes ahead of second place, 385 yards to go, Dorando is on the track. The officials sprint to him, they help him up. The stadium was just absolutely chaotic. And as they help him up, he pushes them away and he says, no, I got this. And he runs 20, 30 more meters and he falls again. Again, he got back up with the help of the officials and he stumbles forward a third time. His legs no longer could hold him, and as he ran forward a fourth time, he fell face first into the track with nothing to guard him because he was just so lost mentally. Eyewitnesses reported his eyes were glassy, his legs shook violently, and his mind seemed to no longer be present. He was fighting with everything, but he had nothing else to give. He got up one last time just to fall a fifth time short of the finish line. And he eventually would be helped up by the officials to cross the finish line so he could finish the race. 32 seconds ahead of second place at this point. But as soon as he crossed the finish line and they let go of him, he immediately collapsed to unconsciousness. And he would later be disqualified for being helped across the finish line. Dorando ran hard. He endured a lot. He pushed through the pain, but he failed to take rest and he lost the race. Rest is not meant to interrupt the pace of the race, but to provide strength so you can finish well. The title of the message today is Rest and Run. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. As I was studying for this, as I've listened to different podcasts and sermons, I have not done this well in my life. When I finally started looking into biblical rest, what I thought was rest, I realized that, man, I had a self-check of I'm not doing this well. And so I have not exemplified this well in my own life. And so if this morning something speaks to you or convicts you or challenges you or just gives you space to just breathe, just let it happen. Let the Holy Spirit work this morning. In many ways, I've also ran past all the hydration stations like Durando. I just wanted to do one more thing, go one more mile, meet one more person every day, just fill it to the max to finish one more thing, to finish one more task. I wanted to produce one more, and I never take this time to stop. In Mark chapter 2, verses 27 through 28, all the verses should be on your notes as well as on the screen. But the context is Jesus is walking with the disciples through these grain fields on Shabbat or Sabbath, and they pluck some heads of grain and they begin to eat them. And the Pharisees, they see this, or the religious leaders, they see them do this, Jesus and the disciples, and these guys, they upheld the law of Moses, which came thousands of years before, and they held it with great seriousness. And so they accused them of doing what was unlawful on the Sabbath. They said that they had worked on the Sabbath by plucking the grain and by doing some things with the grain to eat it was considered work, which was prohibited. Now, these rules were not legitimate scripture, but added rules, which turned a day that was intended for rest into a day that produced stress. So during this time, you have these religious leaders that there was the Sabbath, the law, the Ten Commandments, and the law of Moses, and the Torah and the second Torah. And they're getting on to the disciples for working on this day. But they were getting on to them not for the law of the Sabbath, but for all the extra laws that they've surrounded with this law of the Sabbath. And so Jesus responds to them and says, the Sabbath was made to meet the needs of people, not people to meet the requirements of the Sabbath. And so the Son of Man is Lord, even over the Sabbath. And so Jesus reminds the Pharisees that Sabbath exists for human flourishing. It's literally made for you. It's so you can do well in life. It's for restoration. It's for your joy. It's for delight. It's not for legalistic pressure. The point of Sabbath was never just to have a religious check mark, but it was because you need it. And so Jesus claims his divinity in this passage, not to abolish the original commandment, but to restore its original meaning. It's a life-giving rhythm existing to restore and replenish, a gift, not a burden. And so Jesus has reminded us that Shabbat, or the Hebrew name for Sabbath, a day of rest in God's presence, is for our flourishing. It's good. Rest is essential to our life and our well-being. Going all the way back to the beginning of the Bible and the story of Genesis, God creates everything in 6 days, and what does he do on the seventh day? He rests. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 1, it says, the creation of the heavens and the earth and everything in them was completed. And on the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all his work. Here's a reminder that for me and then for you as well, but God is enough. He created everything in 6 days. He's enough. He keeps the world spinning without me. He keeps the world spinning without you. He was there before us, and he'll be there after us. He is enough. God is in control. Some questions, or if you've ever had any of these feelings, you can keep it to yourself. If you feel like shouting, that's fine. But my question is, have you ever felt like any of these things? Everything in life always feels urgent. Maybe that's you. Everything always I just gotta. Everything feels urgent. Or how about this? Rest days, when allotted or taken, when you finally get a day off, it feels irresponsible or even unproductive. I know for Abby and I, Abby loves naps. I don't know if any of you guys love naps. Abby loves naps. She gets home from a long day, it's nap time. You get home from Sunday, it's nap time. I'm not a napper. I hate the idea of napping. I nap when I pass out. So like whenever I just can't do anything anymore, that's when I nap. But I will never schedule a nap because to me it feels unproductive. Like it feels like I could be doing something, which is going to go straight into this message, if you hear that. I struggle with that stopping and just doing nothing mentality. But it's important. How about this? If I stop, things will fall apart. Maybe in your life you feel like things will fall apart if you just don't. If I stop, I will no longer matter. If I don't handle the work, then who will? Who's going to do it if I don't step in its place? Or for those that have had a life in ministry or volunteering somewhere, getting burnt out is just ministry. It's part of the call. And I'll just flat out say, no, it's not, and that's not even biblical. And we'll jump into that a little bit here. Does telling the God who rested after creating everything that you don't need rest and can do it on your own seem kind of arrogant? God, you made everything in 6 days, exemplified that you rested on the seventh in delight of what you did. But I got this. I can do it all on my own. I'm in control. No, you're not. Continuing through this Old Testament story from creation, move forward many years. The Israelites have now been in Egypt for 400 years. So the Israelites, through the lineage of Abraham, Jacob has 12 sons, 12 tribes of Israel. They've now multiplied. They've been in Egypt after the time of Joseph. And the second half of that period, they are enslaved to the Egyptians. And so God calls Moses, and he uses him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt on a journey back toward the promised land to Abraham. And so Moses, this man that God chose to free them from slavery, he's given 10 commandments for the people of Israel, of which one of them was known as Sabbath. And so in Exodus 20, I believe verse 8, if I'm correct, it says, remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath day of rest dedicated to the Lord your God. And on that day, no one in your household may do any work. That includes you, your sons and your daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners among you. And so he introduces Sabbath or Shabbat, which means to cease or to stop, to rest, to desist, to come to an end. And for about 250 years, the Israelites have only known identity and value by what they could produce. So for all this time, they are enslaved and oppressed by the Egyptians. They had lived as slaves and they were overworked like animals. It was ruthless. It was all about what you can produce. It was all about productivity. My identity was completely in the productivity that I have. If my productivity goes down, my value also decreases. If my productivity goes up, then my value increases. That was their identity. And think about 250 years. Think about how old we are in this room. 250 years is a long time. That's generation after generation after generation. At some point, people only know slavery. Their mentality is slavery. You have to understand that the Egyptian culture destroyed rest. It destroyed identity. God is commanding something so countercultural with this idea of Sabbath and the 10 Commandments that 31% of the original text is the Sabbath, because he is reshaping their identity back to where true identity is found, which is in him, not their productivity. And so Israel was used by Egypt as a human machine, ruthlessly overworked in order to produce more and more for the wealthy and the powerful. They built these things called storage cities, literally just for more stuff. It was built on the back-breaking labor of the Israelites in order to store more material wealth. There's also good things like grain. There's things like weapons and other things in these cities as well. But a lot of it was just more stuff. We need space for it. And the wealthy needed a space for all of their stuff. And it was literal cities, not like a storage container off of Glenstone. It's a city of things. And so Israel was used by Egypt as a human machine. And so there, after these storage cities, it just shows us that Pharaoh was obsessed with the accumulation and production. It was an industrial level oppression that fed a culture which valued output over people. If you see any symmetries with our own lives or our own cultures, that's okay. How many times have we fallen into that same boat of our values based on what we can produce? the output that I have. My identity is based on what I can do. This system in Egypt was completely built on human exhaustion and endless labor. And so the Sabbath, what God introduces through the commandments, was an act of resistance against the Pharaoh system. So we think of Sabbath and we go, oh, that's a day of rest. For some might think of that's just like a really religious thing that you do that was in the Old Testament. Others might be like, man, this has been a part of my life and it's changed everything. It's a day that I rest. But Sabbath, one aspect of it is it's an act of resistance against the Pharaoh's system. This act of resistance against the productivity mindset, the act of resistance against an identity found in I only amount to what I can do. And so the Sabbath was an act of resistance. An Old Testament scholar and theologian, Brueggemann, he says Sabbath is resistance, a visible insistence that our lives are not defined by production and consumption. The Sabbath was one 24-hour period of rest, unproductivity, and communion with God. God was showing them that their identity was value was found in him, not their work. And that's important to recognize, that Sabbath was about being in God's presence, being unproductive. And so Pharaoh built cities, but God built people. And so Sabbath was more than just not working, but it was about resting in God's presence. And so the Sabbath allowed for healing from this slavery mentality. It was never about restriction. Sabbath allowed for God to retrain identity. He's telling us that true rest is a gift. It's not some mechanical, rule-based system. It's not another check mark to put on your belt for the things that you did this week that were like godly or commanded. But it was for you. The Sabbath was created for man because we needed it. And so as of 2023, the overall average lifespan in America was 78.4 years old. And if you skip Sabbath throughout your life, which is a 24-hour period once a week, and you did that for 70 years, you would skip out on Sabbath for 10.1 years of your life. Let that sink in. If you don't take a Sabbath or don't take a day of rest, just one day a week for your life, for 70 years, you lose out on a decade of rest, an entire decade. I don't know about you, but I look at my own life and go, man, I don't know how much I've actually rested. You wonder why you're tired, why when you sleep you're still tired, and all these different things. It's like maybe we haven't learned or figured out or bought into what rest is, which God insisted that his people would do. Not because it was a religious order, but maybe God knows what he's talking about. Going back to Jesus' statement in Mark chapter 2, Sabbath is made for man. Do you think that God may know something about his creation, about what he created and what it needs to function? Maybe God understood that we needed rest. Maybe God understood that in order to flourish, for the thing that he created to flourish, that it required one day to recalibrate, to be renewed, to be restored. There was a man that asked a pastor, he said, I'm encouraged and challenged by your messages on Sabbath. They're really encouraging. They challenge me. And I want to begin incorporating a Sabbath into my schedule. I want to incorporate it into my every week. I know I need rest. I am just so tired. I'm weary. I'm weighed down by my life. And I just need rest. And he says, but how do you recommend that I fit that time into my schedule? I work 90 hours a week. How in the world am I supposed to fit Sabbath into my schedule? Pastor stops for a second, finishes listening, and he says, stop working 90 hours and take a Sabbath. And he's like, but he's like, if you need to work 90 hours to provide for your life, then maybe the life is the thing that needs adjusted. You know, maybe you need to adjust the work schedule because nobody needs to work 90 hours. You need to take a Sabbath. In Exodus, when the first Torah or the law was given, Sabbath was grounded in creation. You know, God rested on the seventh day. And the idea that he rested meant you also must rest. That the creator rests, so does the creation. In Deuteronomy, the second law or the second Torah, the command of the Sabbath is now grounded in this idea of redemption and identity. He's saying that you're not slaves anymore. And maybe this is speaking to you in this room. It spoke to me. You're not defined by your output. You're not valued by production quotas. You're not owned by the Pharaoh. You're my people. You are God's people. You are free. You are image bearers more than brick makers. Sabbath is God's weekly identity formation. It's our reminder of where our true identity lies. Sabbath is identity training. I thought that was cool. It's identity training. How many of us in this room and people in this culture need some identity training? Maybe here's the question that I struggled to answer for most of my life. If someone said, "Who are you?" How do you answer that question? Who are you? A lot of us will go straight to work. We'll go straight to career. I'm a doctor. I'm this. I play guitar. I'm this. But who are you? What happens when you lose the ability to do that function? What happens when your hands get psoriasis and you can't play guitar anymore? I was a guitar player. So now am I nothing? Who are you? It's identity training. The Sabbath is identity training. It's reminding whose you are. You are God's people. In Matthew 11, chapter 11, verse 28 through 30, Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest." I kind of summed that up. You have the full passage in front of you. But the point is that true rest is found in the presence of Jesus. He says, no matter where you are, no matter how worried or burdened, how heavy life is right now, come to me. And maybe you're sitting in the seat right now and you're going, man, I haven't done this very well. Maybe I don't know how to rest. And I love this passage because Jesus just says, come to me. If you are tired, come to me. Breathe in my presence. Sit there and rest in my presence. It's going to be okay. And we're going to figure out how to move you forward. This isn't a religious checkmark like we've said in your week. Sabbath is a rhythm that shapes God's people into a free people. It's a badge of belonging. Hint that it's a rhythm. It's consistent. It happens each week because it recognizes that you work for 6 days tirelessly and you need time to rest and rejuvenate. It's not a reward for working hard. It's actually in order to help you work the following week. It's something that sets in motion for what's to come. While time management may be one important aspect in creating space for true rest, the bigger question for us even today is, where is your identity found? What's your identity this morning? Have you fallen into an identity based on productivity and occupation instead of adoption and sonship? If you were to stop working, stop being productive right now, even around the house for a 24-hour period, would that drive you crazy? Would that just drive you up a wall insane? You're like, no, I have to do something. Like, I have to be productive because if I'm unproductive, then I'm lazy. And if I'm lazy, I'm worthless. And see how quickly we associate ourselves with productivity? How hard is it for you to be unproductive? Not lazy, but rather intentional about resting in God's presence. Being unproductive in itself is not laziness. I just want to point that out. It's not in itself. But rest takes intentionality. It's to be intentional. Rest isn't just what you do or don't do, but it's about resting in who you belong to. You are free. You are loved. You belong to God. And rest ultimately has a purpose, and that's to run. So the sermon is rest and run. Rest has a purpose to run. Jesus models rest as a rhythm that prepares us for running toward the prize. It's not a reward for burning out. It's not, well, I've spent all that I have, and now I'm going to collapse before the finish line. You no longer are in need of rest. You need much more than that, right? Durando needed more than just rest when he collapsed at the finish line. If he would have rested throughout the race, he would have had strength to finish the race. Maybe this morning you feel burnt out. Maybe you're the person saying, man, I'm spent. I'm running that last 385 meters and I keep falling on my face. And I don't know if I'm running the right direction right now. I have no idea. I'm tired. And that's where I just want to encourage you with. Jesus says, come sit with me and I'll give you rest. Come be with me. I'll give you rest. Just breathe in my presence. Sometimes we lose just sometimes we just don't stop to breathe. I don't know if this came to mind when I was talking to Pastor about rest, but just when you think of like one of those really intense moments of like a sports movie, and it like zooms in on the athlete, and sweats drip into the floor, and then the only audible sound that you hear is him breathing. There's just something about a breath. The rhythm of life for some may even feel counter to our culture, and it's something to practice. Jesus often withdrew from the crowd and spent time with God to rest. He modeled rest. Another example would be basketball players. They're playing the game. They're doing their best to win the game, right? Whenever they call a timeout or they come out of the game, they don't sit there to be lazy. They get replenished. They get hydrated. They get a drink. They sit there because they need rest so they can go back out and finish the game with strength, right? They don't come out of the game because they were strong. They came out of their game because they need to regain strength. And so the purpose of their rest was to run with strength towards the prize, to win the prize. The Sabbath is for healing. It's for restoration. The Sabbath is trusting that if you step away from the world, an incomplete world, that God is still in control. The world was incomplete before you. The world is incomplete without you. But we sometimes jump into the system as if we help make it complete. We need to trust that God's in control. An anonymous quote, I don't know who it's by, but it's twofold. It says, people that cannot rest cannot obey. I don't know, that hit me pretty hard. People that cannot rest cannot obey. Then he says, busyness becomes our idolatry. That this idea of busyness, it becomes the idol in our life. We just have to keep going. We can't stop. Work, 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 so you can gain, gain, gain. The more you have, the more you work to keep what you have, so you can get more. It's a cycle of work more, gain more, get more, and it never stops. Just building up these storage cities of things that don't matter. In many ways, it's literally Egypt, and we become Pharaoh. Values based on my productivity. The people around me, their value is based on what they produce. If you're a leader in any capacity, is the value of your team based on what they produce, or is it based on who they are in Christ? We so quickly come into a productivity mindset that we forget what rest looks like. We forget what identity is really found in. And so I don't know who needs to hear this morning, but you matter. You're valuable. You don't need to earn love. You mean something. You were created by a creator who loves you. He made you with an intention and purpose. And he loves you. He loves who you are, and he wants a relationship with you because he loves you. He made you. And it's not based on what you can produce or what you can do. It's because you're made in his image. You're an image bearer of Christ. And if you haven't been resting well, then let's start this week and let's do it together. Let's take a moment to slow down and breathe together. And I hope that this message, maybe you're resting right now, and maybe God's presence, you're like, man, I'm just falling asleep. Good. I think if you're going to fall asleep in a message, this is the one. It's about rest. But to kind of end today, and the worship band can make their way up here. But what does Sabbath look like in 2025? And I'll say this, every person, a Sabbath or rest is going to look a little bit different. If you're an extrovert, it's going to look a little bit different than if you're an introvert. If you're from a big family, or you're in a big family, you have lots of roommates, or you have no roommates. If you are a single adult, if you're married, if you have one kid, if you have 12 kids, like it's going to look different for how Sabbath, how rest looks with you. This is about delighting in the things of God. And so here's a simple metric to know if it's Sabbath. Is it worship? Is it rest? Is it delight? Whatever I'm doing in that if you want to adopt that 24-hour period of rest into your life that God has given us because Sabbath was made for man, because God knew that his creation needed rest, what you do in that 24-hour period, you say, is what I'm doing worship to God? Am I in his presence? Am I resting? Like, am I at ease? Am I slowed down? And is it in delight in God's creation? Am I delighting in the things that he made and provided? Some baselines to start or to continue in your weekly rest. Stop regular work. This is not laundry day. This is not clean the garage out or leftover errands. This is a day to stop. I don't know about you, but when I read that and over, I was like, the productivity in my mind was just not okay with an unproductive day. When I think about an unproductive day, that almost made me feel stressed out. And I realized in that moment, like God was convicting my heart of going, Josh, is your identity based on what you produce? Are you just like the Egyptians, the enslaved Israelites? Are you a slave to productivity? It's a time to reflect on your identity apart from what you do and who you are in him. It's a time to delight in God's gifts. Friends, family, nature, walking, biking, music, baking. It's a time to slow down. Eat meals without rushing, sleep in, have a relaxed schedule. It's a digital detox. Get off your phone, stop binging shows, have minimal technology use. We are being intentional, not mind-numbing. Whenever we play into this phone when you go home, I don't know about you, but there's been days that I'll go home, or my wife will go home, or whoever I'm with, and you have a rest day, which ends up just being binging TV and playing on your phone. That's not resting. That's just not working. There's a difference between rest and not working. Rest is intentional, and it's found in God's presence. It's intentional with how you rest. Have you ever woke up after getting more than enough sleep, but you were more tired than when you went to bed? Because it's like the sleep did nothing, because the sleep isn't true rest. Your body needed to sleep. You have 6 days to catch up on news and people's lives. Live in freedom for a day a week from the digital world and content overload. And you don't have to post about the Sabbath. You don't have to send a picture of the Sabbath. It's okay. You're allowed to just rest and be without all that. And here's some things that are not the Sabbath, just some encouragement. Entertainment does not equal rest. Numbing is not equal to restoring. Changing pace in itself is just changing pace. And so if there's no intention and the reason that you change your pace, then it's just doing another thing. Rest takes intentionality. Sabbath is not rule keeping. It's not about restriction, but it's about freedom. Sabbath is not laziness or non-work. It is resting in God's presence. Sabbath is not a catch-up day. It's not indulgence of the flesh. We want to be free from counterfeit rest and find true rest. And so what it is for 24 hours, you are free from demands, productivity, and digital addiction. Instead, you are present, you are worshipful, you are slowed down, you are delighting in God, you are engaged with his creation. The Sabbath restores what the Pharaoh stole. And so the question this morning is, are you a slave or are you free? And that's really between you and God. Are you a slave to career or productivity? Are you a slave to your schedule? Or are you free this morning? Dormando failed to rest while running the race. He ran right past hydration. He went past heat exhaustion, past muscle failure, past confusion and disorientation. He literally ran until there was literally nothing left inside of him. He gave everything. I'll say this, Dormando's failure to rest was destructive. But his dedication to running hard, I still find very inspiring. And maybe that's for some of us. That's another part of the message, is we got to learn how to run hard. Because once you rest, the purpose isn't just to stay lazy and just sit and rest, but rest is so you can run with dignity and strength, and you can move towards the prize, towards the mission, that people would know Jesus and that his name would be known worldwide in our city. There's a reason that you rest, and it's to run. It's not to walk and to leisure and to sit still where you are, but the reason we rest is with purpose so we can run towards the prize. Rest fuels the run, and the run fulfills the calling. So rest is what makes a hard-ran race possible. And so wherever you are this morning, maybe you're like, man, I'm collapsing at the finish line and I just need to sit in Jesus' presence this morning. That's where you're at. If you're like, man, I don't know why I've been so tired, but I have not taken time to rest in God's presence, then take some time this morning and rest in God's presence. It's better now than to wait another week. If you're like, man, I feel rested, but I'm just doing nothing. Well, let's run. Let's get engaged. Let's get the blood pumping this morning. Let's start a fire under us, because every week you have a mission. You have people in your lives. You have people in your workplaces. You have people in your families and in your homes and in the grocery store that need to know Jesus. We have a mission. We don't just come to church every week just to sit in a pew because it's something that you're supposed to do as a Christian. We come because there's a fellowship of believers, and there's a lot of people out there that don't know Jesus, and we need them to know him. Jesus died on the cross for our sins so that we could have a relationship with him for eternity. And so this morning, I want to invite you to stand right now where you were at. I know we just talked about rest. Half of you are ready to go home, eat some food, leftover Thanksgiving, and plop on the couch. But if you guys will with me right now, if you are in any of those places, weary, in the need of running, if you're in a place that just needs to sit in God's presence, I want to invite you to make a bold move this morning and just come forward. Just for this last song, we're going to sing Trust in God. And I just want to invite you to have a moment with God where you're sitting in his presence in stillness and rest, and just make a statement this morning of like, I want to rest in Christ. I want my identity to be found in Jesus and not my productivity. I no longer am a slave to Pharaoh, but I am free because I am created in the image of Christ. I'm created in the image of God, and he's given me a purpose, and that's where my identity is found. And so I want to invite you guys as a church today to let's engage just for these last few minutes. We're going to get out of here pretty early, so you don't have to worry about that. But I just want to invite you guys right now to come forward if you're in a place that just needs to be in the presence of Jesus.
Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. He's been my fourth man in the fire, time after time. Born of his spirit,